Imagine being a young Christian woman arrested for refusing to sacrifice to Roman gods, thinking you will be executed quickly for your faith, and instead being told by arena officials that before you die, you will be stripped naked in front of 50,000 spectators sexually assaulted by trained animals, while the crowd cheers dressed in the costume of a pagan goddess to mock your beliefs. And then, only after maximum humiliation has been extracted from your suffering, finally killed in a manner designed to provide the longest possible entertainment value for an audience that paid admission to watch you be destroyed. You were told martyrdom meant dying for Christ. You were never told about the damnatio ad bestias protocol for virgin martyrs. You were never told that arena masters kept specialized animals trained specifically for sexual assault. You were never told that your death would be choreographed as pornographic theater. You were never told that refusing to renounce your faith would not lead to dignified execution, but to systematic defilement designed to break your spirit before breaking your body. In a few minutes, you'll understand what happened in the holding cells beneath the Colosseum. In a few minutes, you will understand why Christian martyrdom accounts use phrases like "suffered things we cannot write." In a few minutes, you will understand why Roman arena masters considered virgin martyrs the most profitable attractions, not because killing them was entertaining, but because humiliating them first doubled the ticket revenue. This is not hagiography. This was documented procedure. This happened at the Colosseum, at amphitheaters in Carthage, Lyon, and Smyrna, for nearly 3 centuries of persecution. Tertullian, writing in 197 CE, after witnessing executions in Carthage, described the treatment of Christian women with barely restrained fury. "Your cruelty is our glory." But when you condemn Christian maidens to brothels rather than to lions, you confess that staining chastity is considered by us more dreadful than any punishment and death itself. The Passion of Perpetua and Felicity, a first-hand account from 203 CE, recorded that Perpetua and Felicity were stripped naked and enclosed in nets to be exposed to a mad heifer. But even this text, written by Christians trying to preserve the truth, omitted the worst details that surviving witnesses later recounted, and Eusebius, writing in his church history around 325 CE, documented that in Lyon, noble women were subjected to every insult and outrage before their executions, using euphemisms that Roman court records spelled out with administrative precision. What arena masters recorded as standard entertainment protocol, we are about to recognize as institutionalized sexual torture. What Roman audiences applauded as justice against atheists, we will see as choreographed degradation designed to break faith through shame. Before we go deeper into Blandina's story, if you want more histories they buried in euphemisms and martyr legends, subscribe now and hit the bell. Because once you hear what happened to 16-year-old Blandina when she was condemned to the arena in Lyon in 177 CE, you will never see early Christian martyrdom the same way again. And when you reach the moment that disturbs you most, and you will tell me in the comments where you are watching from and what shocked you the most. The year was 177 CE. Summer heat suffocated the stone cells beneath the amphitheater in Lyon. And Blandina, a slave girl who had converted to Christianity only months earlier, knelt in chains listening to the screams echoing from above, understanding with absolute clarity that her death would not be the quick beheading she had imagined, but something the arena master had spent days planning for maximum spectacle. Blandina was 16 years old. She had been arrested, along with 47 other Christians, during a purge ordered by Emperor Marcus Aurelius. Her crime was refusing to sacrifice to the imperial cult. Her mistress, a Christian noblewoman named Julia, had also been arrested. Both were given multiple opportunities to recant. Both refused. The magistrate sentenced them to damnatio ad bestias, condemnation to the beasts. It sounded straightforward. Blandina assumed she would be led into the arena, attacked by lions, and die quickly. She was wrong about every part of that assumption. The arena master in Lyon was a freedman named Gaius Valerius Proculus. He had managed executions for 12 years. He understood that successful games required variety, spectacle, and careful pacing. Simple lion attacks were boring over in minutes, but executions that combined sexuality, religious mockery, and prolonged suffering, those filled seats. those generated revenue, and virgin Christian women provided the perfect raw material for the most profitable performances. Proculus explained the protocol to Blandina 3 days before her scheduled execution. She would not simply be killed, she would be prepared. The preparation had multiple stages, each designed to maximize humiliation and entertainment value. First, she would be examined by a physician to verify her virginity. This was essential for certain types of performances. Second, she would be assigned a costume. Christians who claimed to worship a pure God would be dressed as pagan deities, forcing them to embody the very religions they rejected. Third, she would be subjected to preliminary softening, non-lethal abuse designed to weaken her resolve and make her suffering during the actual execution more visible and desperate. The examination occurred in a stone room lit by a single oil lamp. A physician named Marcus Septimus conducted it with clinical detachment, while 2 arena attendants witnessed and recorded the results. Blandina was stripped, positioned on a wooden table, and examined internally to confirm virginity. The physician noted his findings on a wax tablet. Female, approximately 16 years, slave class, virginity confirmed, suitable for specialized performance. The language was bureaucratic. The violation was absolute. She was not a person with faith and dignity. She was inventory being appraised for entertainment value. The costume assignment came next. Proculus had selected the role of Europa, the mythological princess abducted and raped by Zeus in the form of a bull. The symbolism was deliberate. A Christian virgin would be forced to play a pagan victim of divine sexual assault, and the performance would feature an actual bull. The costume was minimal, a thin white tunic designed to reveal rather than conceal a crown of flowers, mocking her fate's rejection of pagan rituals, and gold paint applied to her skin to make her visible from the highest seats in the amphitheater. But before the public performance, there was the preparation chamber. This was where virgin martyrs were subjected to preliminary abuse designed to break their spirit. The martyrdom of Agathonic, recorded in Pergamon around 230 CE, mentions that Christian women were given to the basest men before their executions. Clement of Alexandria, writing around 15 CE, stated that Roman authorities handed over Christian virgins to those who corrupted them as part of pre-execution protocol. These were not random acts of cruelty. They were systematic, documented procedures. Blandina spent 2 days in the preparation chamber. What occurred there was never recorded in Christian martyr accounts. Those texts focused on faith and steadfastness, not the sexual violence that preceded execution. But Roman administrative records from arena management included line items for preliminary services and preparatory personnel, euphemisms for systematic assault conducted by arena staff and gladiators before virgin martyrs were considered sufficiently broken for public performance. On the day of her execution, Blandina was led through the underground tunnels connecting the cells to the arena floor. She could hear the crowd 50,000 voices roaring for blood and spectacle. The Passion of Perpetua described similar moments. The day of their victory dawned, and they marched from the prison to the amphitheater joyfully as though they were going to heaven. But Blandina did not march joyfully. She had been systematically degraded for 2 days. She had been violated in ways that shattered the innocence she had tried to preserve, and she knew the worst was still ahead. The arena floor was covered in sand, recently raked smooth. Proculus had arranged the performance with theatrical precision. Blandina would enter first, dressed as Europa, displayed to the crowd, while announcers explained her crime atheism against Rome's gods. Then the bull would be released. The bull had been trained, not extensively, but enough. Arena managers kept animals specifically conditioned for these performances, starved, agitated, responding to handlers who positioned victims appropriately. Eusebius recorded Blandina's execution with restrained language. Blandina was hung on a post and exposed as prey to wild beasts. She seemed to hang in the form of a cross, but this account, written decades later by Christians, sanitizing the horror, omits what Roman spectators saw and what earlier suppressed testimonies described. The post was not for crucifixion, it was a positioning device, and the exposure to beasts was not a simple attack, but a choreographed sexual assault involving a bull while 50,000 spectators watched and cheered. The actor of the Christian Martyrs, fragments preserved from various persecutions, contain phrases that were later censored or lost. Subjected to the beast in the manner of Europa, suffered defilement before death, endured what modesty forbids describing. These euphemisms concealed systematic sexual violence conducted as public entertainment. The crowds did not attend to see women killed. They attended to see them humiliated, degraded and broken before being killed. The performance lasted nearly 30 minutes. The bull, confused and agitated, was guided by handlers using techniques developed over decades of arena management. When the assault was deemed sufficiently complete for entertainment purposes, attendants removed Blandina from the post. She was alive but severely injured. The crowd's bloodlust was only partially satisfied. The execution needed a finale. Proculus had prepared for this. Blandina was placed in a bronze cage barely large enough to crouch in and positioned in the center of the arena. A wild cow, maddened by starvation and prodding, was released. The animal attacked the cage, goring Blandina through the bars. Each strike drew screams and cheers from the audience. This continued until the crowd grew restless. Finally, an attendant entered with a sword and finished what the animals had begun. Her body was left in the arena for hours, displayed as a warning. Christian accounts later claim she maintained her faith throughout, praying and encouraging other martyrs. This may be true. Faith can survive unimaginable suffering. But those same accounts omit the sexual violence, the systematic degradation, the choreographed humiliation. They focus on spiritual victory while erasing the physical horror. This erasure, though well-intentioned, allowed the full brutality of Roman arena practices to be forgotten. And Blandina was not unique. This was standard protocol. The martyrdom of Saints Perpetua and Felicity mentions that the women were stripped and enclosed in nets to be exposed to a mad heifer. The nets were transparent, ensuring visibility. The heifer was chosen because male animals were considered more aggressive. Christian editors later removed explicit descriptions, leaving only sanitized accounts of suffering and torment. Perpetua, a noblewoman, was 22 and nursing an infant when arrested. Felicity was 8 months pregnant and gave birth in prison days before her execution. Both were subjected to the same protocol: examination, costume assignment, preliminary abuse, public sexual assault by animals, and finally death. The Passion of Perpetua, despite being partially written by Perpetua herself, contains editorial notes from later Christian compilers, who removed certain passages unsuitable for Christian readers. Archaeological evidence supports what textual sources obscure. Excavations at the Carthage Amphitheatre in 1960 uncovered holding cells with inscriptions scratched into walls. One reads in crude Latin, "Perpetua was here. God remembers." Another, nearly illegible, "They defiled us but could not break faith." These were not glorious proclamations of martyrdom. They were desperate assertions of survival and faith in the face of systematic sexual torture. Roman administrative documents preserved in Egyptian papyri include arena expense reports. One from 183 CE lists payments for virgin verification services, costume preparation for mythological reenactments, and specialized animal training for moral performances. These line items represent budgeted, standardized procedures for sexually torturing Christian women before executing them. But amid the systematic horror, there were moments of resistance. The actor Martyrs records that a Christian woman named Potamia Nair, condemned in Alexandria around 202 CE, was told she would be sexually assaulted before execution. She responded by pouring boiling tar over herself, choosing agonizing death over degradation. Her executioners were so disturbed, they allowed her to die from her wounds rather than proceed with the planned humiliation. Another account, from Smyrna in 155 CE, describes 12 Christian women who collectively refused to be examined by the arena physician. They were immediately burned alive. The arena master noted in his report that this unfortunate defiance had cost the games significant revenue. Virgin martyr performances sold premium-priced seats. These acts of resistance were not victories in any conventional sense. The women still died, but they chose the terms of their deaths, denying the system its full measure of degradation. That choice, however small, mattered. The practice continued until Constantine's Edict of Milan in 313 CE officially ended Christian persecution. Arena executions of Christians ceased, but the trauma survived in collective memory, encoded in martyr accounts that spoke of suffering beyond description and torments that cannot be named. Early Christians understood what later generations, reading sanitized texts, could not: that martyrdom often included sexual violence systematically inflicted to break faith through shame. Modern scholarship has begun recovering this suppressed history. In 1998, researcher Catherine Shainer analyzed editorial patterns in early martyr texts and found consistent evidence of removed passages dealing with sexual violence. Her work demonstrated that Christian editors deliberately obscured arena sexual torture to protect martyrs' reputations and avoid giving readers prurient details. Blandina's name appears in several early Christian texts. The most complete account is in Eusebius's Church History, which describes her as a blessed woman who was finally sacrificed after enduring many contests. But the full record of her suffering, the examination, the costumes, the preparation chamber, the choreographed assault exists only in fragments, suppressed testimonies, and administrative documents that treated human degradation as entertainment logistics. She was 16 years old, a slave, a new convert to a faith that promised dignity and resurrection, and she endured horrors designed specifically to destroy both. The system failed. She died with her faith intact, but acknowledging her victory requires acknowledging the full measure of what she survived. Sanitizing her martyrdom dishonors her resistance. Blandina's story is not over. There are more suppressed accounts, more edited passages, more archaeological inscriptions waiting to be read, with eyes that recognize sexual violence even when historical texts use euphemisms. If this moved you, tell me in the comments. If you want more histories they try to erase through editorial sanitization and selective preservation, subscribe. Because their silence ends here. Because Blandina existed. Because she resisted. Because the system designed to break her through shame failed, and no empire's entertainment bureaucracy can erase that truth completely.